Okay, 11.5 has a lot of similarities to section 11.2. When you were studying that, you saw that there were these relationships between the angles, such as start with alternate exterior, angle 1 and angle 7, the alternate ones on the outside, they have the same measure. And angle 2 and angle 8 have the same measure. Actually, they have the same measure if these two lines are parallel. So if x and y are parallel, 1 and 7 are the same measure, and 2 and 8 are the same measure. Consecutive interior are the ones that are inside on the same side, because they're consecutive and they're inside. They add up to 180 if these two lines are parallel. Alternate interior ones are like 3 and 5. They're interior, inside the two parallel lines, or what should be parallel. And they're on opposite or alternate sides. And 4 and 6 are also alternate interior. And then a perpendicular transversal. Well, we'll talk about that one differently, because that's where you'd have like a perpendicular line like that. And actually what that's saying is if these are then 90-degree angles, then these are too. Well, this is really the same, because these two are consecutive interior, these two are alternate interior, and they're all 90 degrees. I could take the alternate exterior, and they would both be the same. So this one's there in the book and something to know and see about, but it's really the same as the other ones. Okay, here's how we're going to use it. This is set up, and there's nothing here to indicate that x and y are parallel. You don't know they're parallel unless there's some information, or unless you're given the chance to find the correct number for an angle to prove it. So what I want to do is give you some info. If the measure of angle 2 is 12x plus 8, and the measure of angle 8 is 15x minus 25, there. What value for x would prove that the lines are parallel? So let's think about this. Let me show you how to think about it. Angle 2 is right here, so that one's 12x plus 8. Angle 8 is way over here, 15x minus 25. 2 and 8 are alternate exterior angles. According to what you learned in 11.2 and then reviewed here again, is that if x and y are parallel lines, then these two have to be equal. 12x plus 8 must equal 15x minus 25. Well, we don't know that these are parallel. But if we put these equal to each other and solve for x, that x we get is the one that has to be true for it in order to say that x and y are parallel. So we're going backwards here. We're going to figure out what x makes these the same, and then say x is equal to that, and then we can say that x and y are parallel. So we're proving that x and y are parallel, or finding the right x that makes it so. So what we do here is we simply do 12x plus 8 equals 15x minus 25. And then it's a matter of working out the math with it. So if I subtract 8 here, I get 12x equals 15x minus 33. And then subtract 15x and subtract 15x, and I get negative 3x equals negative 33. And when you divide both sides by negative 3, you get x is equal to a positive 11. So once I put them equal, I just did the normal math here to get the 11. Now, let's put 11 in here. 11 times 12, well, we'll do 12 times 11 plus 8. So 11 times 12 is 132, plus 8, that makes this 140 degrees. Let's put 11 in here. 11 times 15 is 165, minus 25. So 165 take away 25, that is also 140 degrees. So using the number 11 makes these two 140 degrees each. That means that 11 is the number you need that makes x and y parallel. Because if these are both 140 degrees, that forces x and y to be parallel. So the answer in this case is simply x equals 11. And I asked what's the value of x? This is not one of those where I have to put the 11 back in. I could say something like a follow-on then, say it might be, what's the amount, let me make this so everybody can see it. What's the amount or the measure of angle 8? So then I'd say 140 degrees. But here, really, we're trying to prove x and y parallel, so we just need the x that makes it that way. The next problem is similar but a little different. So let me give you the numbers for this one. Measure of angle 4. We're going to use angle 4 is equal to 9x plus 5. And the measure of angle 5 is 2x plus 10. So it still doesn't say here that the lines are parallel, so it's like the last one, we have to figure out what number of x put in here would force these two angles to either be equal or add to 180, and that would force these two to be parallel. So angle 4 is this one here, 9x plus 5. Angle 5 is this one here, 2x plus 10. Notice the placement of these. The placement of these two is the inside ones. They're interior and they're on the same side. So this is the consecutive interior angle. These are consecutive interior angles. The converse means now we're going to go backwards with them. We're going to say that if we work these out right, we'll figure out what value you need to have for these in order to then make these parallel. But they're not equal to each other. The consecutive interior angles aren't equal. That one's clearly a lot larger than that, even if it's not to scale. In this case, for the consecutive interior angles, they add up to 180. So we're going to do 9x plus 5 plus 2x plus 10 equals 180. And then you work out the math for these. 9x plus 2x is 11x, 5 plus 10 is 15. So adding the common ones on one side. Now I'll subtract 15 on both sides, so clear that up and just have 11x. And then I'll divide by the 11 to get the x by itself, and it happens to be the number 15. So those are the math steps to go from here to here. Combine the like terms, subtract on both sides, divide on both sides, and we isolate the x and get 15. Now let's come back and find these, because if that's true, if that makes these two numbers that will add up to 180, that forces x and y to be parallel. So if I put 15 in here, 9 times 15 plus 5, okay, so that's 90 and 5, that's 145, is that right? No, 135. 9 times 15 is 135, plus 5, so that's 140 degrees. So that's saying that this one is 140 degrees. If I take the 15 and put it in here, 2 times 15 plus 10, that's 30 plus 10, that's 40 degrees. So that's saying that this one is 40 degrees. On the last problem, they had to be equal to each other. In this case, they're not equal to each other, but they're not supposed to be. They're supposed to add up to 180. And 140 plus 40 does add up to 180. So 15 is the number you need in order to make these two numbers that add up to 180, and that proves that x and y are parallel. I chose these two problems on purpose to make sure you to see that sometimes you put the expressions equal to each other, sometimes you put the expressions adding them equal to 180. You need to identify which is which. And then you can do them just like this. The math part of it's not so hard, it's the paying attention of recognizing which way to go. So that's when you're studying, that's the kind of thing to study. If you have this situation, you have to think, how do I know if I'm supposed to add them, or how do I know if I'm supposed to make them equal to each other? And that's based on these things. Right? This particular one adds up to 180, other ones might be supplemental. Most of them are actually equal to each other. It's just that some people always make them equal to each other, and then the one time where it's supposed to be adding to 180, they don't get it right because they're not thinking about it. So avoid that and you're in pretty good shape on it. Okay. Well, I only have that one page on 11.5 because that's what that focuses on. It's simply finding what value in order to do those things.